China's top political advisory body opens its annual session in Beijing. Donald Trump attacks Democrats, socialism, and the Mueller probe in a fiery speech. And in Iraq, Yazidis captured by ISIS return home.
Good evening. The head of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference warned that Hong Kong independence should not be promoted. Wang Yang was delivering a keynote speech as China's top advisory body opened its annual session in Beijing this afternoon. Chrissy Leung has more details.
The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, or CPPCC, opened its annual session this afternoon. In attendance at the Great Hall of the People were President Xi Jinping, Premier Li Keqiang, and other state leaders. CPPCC Vice Chairman Tong Chihua, Luan Chenying, and Edmund Ho were among presidium members seated on the stage. CPPCC Chairman Huang Yang highlighted the issue of Hong Kong independence in his first work report since coming to office last year. He recalled that over the past year, the CPPCC had called on its Hong Kong members to unambiguously oppose Hong Kong independence. He said the major task for the delegates this year is to give suggestions on how to implement the outlined development plan for the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macau Greater Bay Area. He added it's important to accurately implement the one country, two systems principle in the two SARs and support the chief executives in administering the two places. More than 2,000 CPPCC members, including 200 from Hong Kong, gathered in the capital city for this year's session, which will last until March 13th. Sources say Vice Premier Hang Zheng will meet CPPCC delegates from Hong Kong and Macau tomorrow. He will also meet with the two SAR's National People's Congress deputies in separate groups on Wednesday. It will be Han's first meeting with them after he took office as the head of a central coordination group overseeing Hong Kong and Macau affairs last year. Christy Leung, TVB News.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Secretary General of the National People's Congress Standing Committee met with Hong Kong and Macau NPC deputies today. This as the country's national legislature will begin its annual session 2 days later. One of the vice chairs, Xin Chenying, reminded the delegates that they're about their major duties in vetting reports and motions. During a preparatory meeting tomorrow at the Great Hall of the People, delegates will elect the Presidium and its chairperson.
The financial secretary says there are no immediate plans to introduce new taxes. But as Caleb Leung reports, Paul Chan says the rates of increases for certain expenditures, such as education and social welfare, may not be as high as before.
No new taxes. That's what Financial Secretary Paul Chan said, even though he expects the city's budget surpluses to shrink over the next 5 years.
We have been working very hard to diversify our economy, and in due course this will bring additional revenue. But in the meantime, given our own financial strength, there is no intention for us to introduce any new form of taxation.
That means the government has to be careful with its money. Chen said a substantial part of government spending, including education and healthcare, is catching up on previous underinvestment. The rates of increase for these expenditures may slow down in the future.
There are continuing demand for the government to improve public services. So when this is considered to be appropriate and worthwhile, we would still spend the money as required. But at the same time, of course, this has to be in line with our own affordability.
Despite many uncertainties ahead, Chen also said Hong Kong's economic sentiment has improved since the last quarter of 2018.
Nobody can tell what exactly will happen in the next few years. Very much depend on the US-China relationship as well as some other geographic political tensions. If things remain reasonably predictable, then our situation will be all right.
But he thinks it's too early to say whether the SAR will need to start dipping into its fiscal reserves in a few years' time. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Turning overseas, US President Donald Trump went on the attack as he addressed Republicans, using his longest speech of his presidency to attack the special investigation into allegations of Russian meddling in the 2016 election. He also mocked Democrats for leaning even more to the left, saying their socialist schemes would destroy America. Donald Trump's trip to Vietnam to meet with Kim Jong-un may have ended in failure, but the US leader was in no mood to reflect on any apparent disappointment he might have had as he spoke to the Republican Party faithful. In a wide-ranging speech at the Conservative Political Action Conference, Trump rehashed his spiel that he overcame long odds and a crowded field of established politicians to claim the White House. And he launched a furious attack against Special Counsel Robert Mueller and the investigation into alleged collusion between his campaign and the Russians.
But they fight so hard on this witch hunt, this phony deal that they put together, this phony thing that now looks like it's dying, so they don't have anything with Russia. There's no collusion. So now they go and morph into, let's inspect every deal he's ever done. We're going to go into his finances. We're going to check his deals. We're going to check. These people are sick.
Trump also took aim at the Democrats, denouncing them as a party bent on turning America into a socialist nightmare with a new generation of left-leaning lawmakers.
Socialism is about only one thing. It's called power for the ruling class. That's what it is. Look at what's happening in Venezuela and so many other places. All of us are here today because we know that the future does not belong to those who believe in socialism.
And Trump drew wild cheers from the crowd as he predicted he would win re-election by a greater margin than his 2016 victory.
Our movement and our future in our country is unlimited. What we've done together has never been done in the history, maybe of beyond our country, maybe in the history of the world. It's never been done before, and we're going to do it, I think, again in 2020, and the numbers are going to be even bigger.
Meanwhile, US Senator Bernie Sanders kicked off his presidential campaign close to the rent-controlled apartment where he grew up in Brooklyn. He forcefully made the case that he is nothing like his fellow New Yorker and incumbent President Donald Trump. He proclaimed himself the Democrat best prepared to beat Trump in 2020, and he promised to create an America which was fairer and less beholden to the rich and powerful.
And I want to thank all of you for being part of a campaign which is not only going to win the Democratic nomination, which is not only going to defeat Donald Trump, who is the most dangerous president in modern American history, but with your help, we are going to transform this country and finally create an economy and a government which works for all of us, not just the 1%.
South Korea and the United States are eliminating their springtime military drills. They're replacing them with smaller exercises in what they call an effort to support diplomacy aimed at resolving the North Korean nuclear crisis. Meanwhile, at the Conservative Political Action Conference, Trump revisited his meeting with North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un. He called their summit very productive despite no agreement reached. Trump also made it clear North Korea would have a bright future ahead of it if it would give up its nuclear weapons program.
And I'll tell you this, North Korea has an incredible, brilliant economic future if they make a deal. But they don't have any economic future if they have nuclear weapons. It's really a bad thing for them. So we'll see how it all goes, but I think it's going well. I think we learned a lot over the last couple of days.
In Syria, the last remnants of the Islamic State group and their supporters are being forced out of their final hiding place. US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces say they have begun their final push in the town of Baghouz. Peter Caveas has details.
U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, continued their military operations to liberate the last piece of territory held by the Islamic State group. Video released by the Kurdish People's Protection Units, or YPG, which are part of the SDF, showed smoke rising from the last Islamic State group enclave in Baghouz. This would mark the end of a devastating 4-year global campaign to end the extremist group's hold on territory in Syria and Iraq. At the height of their so-called caliphate, the militant group controlled nearly a third of both Iraq and Syria. Despite this last push by the U.S.-backed forces, the Islamic State group remains a threat, using guerrilla tactics and holding some desolate land further west. Thousands of civilians have emerged in the last few days from the last speck of territory held by the Islamic State group. A group of Yazidi women and children fled to the northern Iraqi city of Dohuk. They were reunited with friends and relatives after spending more than 4 years in Islamic State captivity. ISIS said anyone who wanted to leave could get out, said this child. We went to Baghouz, we stayed there, and eventually came here. Yazidis are a religious minority indigenous to the area of northern Iraq and northern Syria. The UN believes about 9,000 members of the minority group have been enslaved, raped, and killed by ISIS. The UN calls the ISIS actions a genocidal campaign. This woman says ISIS captured her and her brother, and she doesn't know what happened to her parents and other siblings. Thousands of Yazidis are still missing after Islamic State fighters stormed their communities in northwestern Iraq in 2014. Peter Caveos, TVB News.
Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido said he would return home after a visit to Ecuador. He also called for protests next week against President Nicolas Maduro, whose government banned him from traveling abroad. Guaido, who declared himself Venezuela's interim president in January, did not comment on the exact timing of his planned return. He's been touring Latin America seeking support for his campaign to form a transitional government to oust Maduro. Last weekend, Guaido coordinated a failed effort to bring aid into Venezuela. Security forces loyal to Maduro blocked the supplies. Maduro described Guaido's actions as part of a U.S.-backed plot to overthrow him. Many Western nations, including the U.S., recognize Guaido as the country's leader. He says Maduro's election win last year was rigged.
Demonstrators gathered across France for the 16th straight weekend to rally against fiscal inequality. French Yellow Vest protesters gathered on the Champs-Élysées in Paris to march against President Emmanuel Macron's policies. Demonstrators carried anti-Macron signs through city streets. The weekly demonstrations have become smaller and less violent since a peak back in December. Organizers said they want to maintain pressure on the government as a 2-month grand debate initiated by Macron ends this month. That initiative lets citizens express their views on the country's economic and democratic issues.
And still ahead on the news tonight. Argentina's Coast Guard opens fire on a Chinese fishing boat. Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist Yanis Barakis dies of an illness. And a plan to give the Hong Kong Science Museum a modern feel.
There's something in my blood. Doctor wouldn't tell me what it was over the phone. That scares the hell out of me.
All units responding. I have a male adult in distress.
This job, it's the only way I know. Do you believe in karma?
I believe in God's justice.
How about a sense of humor?
Guy robs a joint and then gets hit by a dump truck a few feet from the store. Karma's a bitch.
Tuesday, 911 at 10:40 on Pearl.
有保，佢又有保，佢都有保，個個有保。銀行有存款就自動受保，保利高達港幣50萬，其他貨幣存款一樣保，存款受法律保障。
Here's a quick tip for finding your ideal hotel. 1. Go to Trivago. 2. Find the hotel you want. 3. Compare the different prices for the same hotel at once. That's it. Easy. Hotel Trivago.
We're the people that do. We do ideas. We do innovation. We do fitness, because health is the ultimate wealth. We do good food, because our bodies deserve it. We do money because thinking ahead leads to a brighter future. We do love. We do family. We do life.
今時今日搭車係點嘅？你哋睇下咪知咯。喂，司機有落啊？點揸車啊？攞牌。其實你自己喺度睇電話，唔記得落車啫喎。咦？你哋係消咗毒㗎？婆婆，坐。唔該晒。搭車顧自己，都要顧人哋。
The new Hydra grew a beautiful parasite inside S.H.I.E.L.D.
Captain America is a fugitive from S.H.I.E.L.D.
One man's enemy is another man's hero.
He's fast, strong, out of metal arm.
The ones that do call him the Winter Soldier.
Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Bucky? Who the hell is Bucky?
Saturday on Pearl's Weekend Blockbuster.
Welcome back to TVB News. Argentina's Coast Guard opened fire on a Chinese fishing boat that was said to be fishing illegally in the South American country's exclusive economic zone.
Wangshan 801, Wangshan 801. This is Argentine Coast Guard calling you. Over. We prepare to open fire on you. You are responsibility for your ship and your crew. Fuego libre! Fuego libre!
The Argentina Coast Guard fired multiple shots on Saturday after the Chinese fishing boat ignored an order to stop its engine. The Chinese vessel then abandoned its fishing gear and sped towards international waters. Argentine officials said the fishing boat attempted to ram the Argentine Coast Guard vessel during the 3-hour standoff. The fishing boat eventually made good its escape. Argentina has issued an international capture order for the Huaxiang 801.
Yanis Barakis, one of Reuters' most decorated and distinguished photographers, has died after a long battle with cancer. He was 58. After joining the Newswire 30 years ago, Barakis covered many of the most tumultuous events around the world. This includes conflicts in Afghanistan and Chechnya, a huge earthquake in Kashmir, and the Egyptian uprising of 2011. In the process, he won the respect of both peers and rivals for his skill and bravery. He also led a team to a Pulitzer Prize in 2016 for their coverage of the refugee crisis.
Back locally, police have arrested 4 suspects in relation to a wounding case in Tsim Sha Tsui 2 days ago. On Friday at around 9 p.m, 5 knife-wielding men slashed the legs of a 24-year-old man outside Kanmar building on Cameron Road. Culprits also smashed the victim's vehicle before escaping in the direction of Canavarin Road in a getaway car. Last night, police apprehended 4 men on suspicion of wounding and criminal damage. They are thought to be related to another wounding incident in Shamshai Po last month. The cases are believed to have resulted from triad conflicts.
And police have listed a fire in Kwun Tong earlier today as arson. The fire broke out at around midnight in a back alley at the intersection of Shoi Wo and Shoi Ning Streets. It was later put out, leaving behind a pile of burnt items believed to be belongings of some scavengers. The Fire Services Department found the case suspicious and handed it over to the police.
A senior government official says a greater public to private housing ratio does not mean an immediate increase of more public housing supply. Next year, the government will be selling 15 pieces of land for residential use, combined with rail and redevelopment projects. That is expected to offer some 15,000 units of private housing, which is fewer than this year's figure. Secretary for Development Michael Wong says it's partly due to the public to private housing ratio being altered from 6:4 to 7:3. He expects the readjustment effect on private housing will only emerge in 5 to 7 years' time.
In the very short term, there isn't any magic wand that we can simply wave and then resolve the land shortage problem. In addition to the demand management measures, there are also the measures that the housing side are pursuing in terms of freeing up, for example, public rental housing, under certain criteria.
And visitors can expect more interactive displays at the Hong Kong Science Museum. This as the government plans to spend millions of dollars to give it a more modern feel. Our Pinky Wong has more.
A traditional telephone switchboard, machines that generate light. These could be found in 2 of the 16 permanent exhibitions at the Hong Kong Science Museum. They have been here since 1991, and some of the displays have been called outdated. Mr. Chow, a secondary school teacher, thinks innovation and technology should be included. If students aren't excited about the exhibits, they won't bother going to a museum, he said. Interactive ones would be better. Criticism aside, from 2017 to 2018, the Hong Kong Science Museum welcomed a record-breaking crowd of almost 2 million visitors. Half of them came for the special exhibitions. And the Leisure and Cultural Services Department is planning to inject $20 million to spice things up. Professor Chang Pak Chung with the Museum Advisory Committee also wants more interactive displays. This includes using virtual reality to spark the interest of the public, as well as highlighting mobile technologies. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
All righty, Tony, I see you have some NBA action for us today.
Really do, yeah. We can kick off, well, sorry, not tip off with that. NBA and the LA Lakers fell to the Phoenix Suns 118-109. LeBron James had 27 points and 16 assists in the loss against a team with the worst record in basketball. In Philadelphia, the Golden State Warriors bounced back after 2 straight losses. The Warriors' Steph Curry scored 28 points, while Kevin Durant led the way with 34. The final score was 120-117. Philly wasted a triple-double from Ben Simmons, who racked up 25 points, 15 rebounds and 11 assists. The Sixers played without injured big man Joel Embiid, while the Warriors were missing Klay Thompson. To tennis now, and Roger Federer captured ATP Tour win number 100. The Swiss beat Greece's Stefanos Tsitsipas in the final of the Dubai Tennis Championships. The scores were 6-4 and 6-4. The 37-year-old is the second man after American Jimmy Connors to reach the milestone. Connors holds the record with 109 victories. Federer lifted his first trophy 18 years ago in Milan. Of course, he owns the men's record for the most Grand Slams with 20. Football and Major League Soccer is back. The LA Galaxy came from behind to beat the Chicago Fire 2-1. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was one of the heroes. The Swede scored the game winner with 10 minutes to go. 16-year-old Efrain Alvarez played a role in the goal. The Mexican-American also had an assist as he became the youngest player to ever appear for the Galaxy. Last season, LA failed to make the playoffs, but Ibrahimovic led the league with 22 goals. Meanwhile, former Galaxy player David Beckham was honoured with a statue ahead of the season opener. It stands at the main entrance of the team's stadium near Los Angeles. Beckham joined the Galaxy in 2007. He played for 6 seasons and led the franchise to 2 MLS Cups. Beckham has been credited with transforming the league and the sport in the United States. The former England captain is also one of the owners of Inter Miami, set to debut in MLS in 2020.
I'm very thankful to Major League Soccer for believing in me, bringing me to this great country, to this great league, but more importantly to this great team. So thank you very much. It makes me very proud that there's a statue that my children and my children's children can visit one day and say they're very proud to see their dad and their granddad.
And finally, Rio de Janeiro is awash with color and costumes as the annual carnival is underway. Parades and street parties have engulfed the Brazilian city. People were outfitted in extravagant costumes, wigs, and makeup and danced the samba. Roughly 1.5 million people are expected to come to Rio for the carnival, which runs until Wednesday. There was a political twist among the revelry, with many groups highlighting discrimination against minorities under Jair Bolsonaro's new conservative government. 3 weeks into his presidency, questions have also been raised about suspicious payments to the bank accounts of his son and wife. And that is a wrap of our news.
Thanks for watching.
Why is there never any new thinking in Hong Kong's budgets? Financial Secretary Paul Chan on Straight Talk, Tuesday night at 8 on Pearl.
The more humble you are, the more faith will operate. The more proud you are, faith cannot operate because you're trusting yourself, you're trusting your performance, you're trusting your own strength. Why do you need faith?
Every Monday to Friday and Sunday, Pastor Joseph Prince at 7 in the morning on Pearl.
So, my favorite hotel in Paris is definitely Hotel Delia. But since I've discovered